Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and get started here. Just so we start off as a point of order, we do not have our chair, Andy Pico, who has moved on, and we do not have our vice chair, Commissioner Payne from Fremont County, who has also moved on. And so I wanted to see amongst any of the committee members, is there anyone who would like to volunteer to chair today's meeting? Or would you like me to just go through it since I already have the controls? So any feedback on how we'd like to go about this?
I vote for Brian.
I vote for Brian.
All right.
When in doubt, vote for Brian.
Hey, you know, I already have the meeting controls. I guess it's one way for me to do my last meeting then. All right, well, welcome everyone this evening or this afternoon for you. It's our regular Joint Land Use Study Implementation Committee meeting. Brian Potts, JLUS Program Manager. We'll start off with a call to order. We do not have a quorum as far as I can tell. We're a couple shy, but at this point, all of our action items are actually discussion. If we could, does anyone think we probably need to go through introductions at least at a minimum for some of our guests tonight that have not attended in the past? So if you could, those that have not attended, they're visiting us from California, would you be able to unmute yourselves and introduce yourself?
Hi there, this is Stephen Greenberg and Amy. Amy Gentile. We're the consultants for the city of Lompoc, who is about to get awarded a grant from Old CC, and so we're getting ready to kick off February 1st. And Lewis was kind enough, and you were kind enough to allow us to just listen in and watch and see how y'all conduct business, so we can get a little bit of benefit of how someone else is doing it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us. Just as you're aware, usually it would be an elected official that would be on our committee that's running it, but obviously we're a little short tonight on that. So, so with that, I think we have a lot of our normal folks, but if anyone else that's visiting for the first time would like to introduce themselves, go ahead and do that now.
Hi, my name's Mark Stoffel. I'm here from the Air Force Academy Airspace Section. I replaced Mr. Gladney back this past fall.
Great to have you, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir.
All right, anyone else? If not, we'll get going. All right, so with that, I guess since we don't have a quorum, we can't exactly go over a formal approval of the agenda, but what we'll do instead is there anyone that would like to add anything to the agenda, change anything, or note anything in the agenda that needs to be changed? And hearing nothing at this time, we'll go ahead. Are there any public comments? Anyone that would like to provide comments outside of community or installation reports? All right, seeing none. Minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes, and are there any corrections or anything we'd like to enter into the record to change on the minutes from October 22nd? All right, hearing nothing, we'll go ahead and move on to the manager's report. So with that, so I wanted to start off with noting something that is a change associated with the National Defense Authorization Act. So again, this is Brian Potts, Joint Land Use Study Program Manager. So going over some of the things that are going on with the program. So the National Defense Authorization Act, when that was passed, it officially renamed the Office of Economic Adjustment as the Office of Local Defense Communities and Cooperation, acronym of Old CC. So from here on out, as we're referring to things, we'll be using Old CC as the acronym, and so that's the new title. If at any point, if Lewis, if you have anything to say about that, feel free to offer that up. Otherwise, I can continue.
Sure. Let me just
sure,
really quick and just say that the NDAA did rename us as Old CC. We have no change in our mission or authorities as a result of the name change. The NDAA did provide further funding for the DSIP and defense military. Sorry, hold on. Defense military community, defense manufacturing communities. Oof. That program also got some additional funds. And then lastly, there was a new program, sound mitigation program, that was also authorized for OEA. This new program, I don't have any information that I can add right now because it's still in development. So for that, I would say stand by. You'll probably see something come out from OEA either through our social media or probably through the Association of Defense Communities is with respect to that sound mitigation program. Also, stay tuned for those that are interested. The DMC and DSIP programs will likely have new federal funding opportunities come out sometime this year as well. So to summarize, name change, yep, everybody hates the acronym. Probably not gonna, hopefully it won't stick around for long, but we'll see. But no change in our roles, responsibilities, authorities, etc. And especially note that what was once considered a pilot program, the military installation sustainability, encompassed this program, Joint Land Use Studies, as well as military installation resilience, now one program called Military Installation Sustainability. So as we move forward and as this body continues, just to keep that in mind, that those two programs, compatible use, installation resilience, have been combined with the umbrella title of installation sustainability. And that's all I got. Thanks for the opportunity, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Louis. And this
Brian,
leads me
this is Keith.
Yeah.
Brian, this
Yeah.
is Keith. Could I make a comment for Louis? Louis,
Absolutely.
congratulations to you guys on being formalized, if you will, into law, codified into law as an organization, which ought to make your boss Patrick very, very happy. I serve on the ADC board, and we fought for that really hard, and we're pleased that that has passed for you.
Thank you, Keith. Good. Yeah. Any questions on that for Louis, since we're on that subject? Any questions at this point?
And thanks, Keith. I hit the wrong button. I was trying to get to the mute button and it took me a long time to respond. So thanks for that. Yeah, we're definitely pleased that we're finally codified and not taking as many shots in it as not expected to take many shots anyway.
Great.
Yeah, for those of you who weren't aware, OEA has essentially till now had to justify their existence on an annual basis, and in these recent times of the secretary's night court and those sorts of things, they were very vulnerable, and along with them, all of these programs that we've come to find so valuable. So with the law changing not only their name this year, the more important part of that is that they were codified into law and should no longer be under the constant threat that they have been for all of their existence.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you both for that. Any other questions for Louis? All right. Just to go on here with our current activities with Old CC, I actually had written this memo, of course, prior to this week. And so there's one inaccuracy that I'll correct, which is we're very close. We have entered in all of our grant application materials into the system for Old CC for application. We're just doing a couple of minor edits on that. And so we expect to have that completely entered into the process by the end of this week, ideally. So the next grant that we're pursuing is going to be a second phase of implementation, and I'll get into that later in the agenda. If all goes well, if we receive the award of the grant, that should occur likely in March of 2021, and we expect to have a start date of April 1st. Some of the major implementation grant objectives that we've proposed are here as followed. Of course, continuing with this committee and working with any other supporting working groups that this committee should establish in the future. Continue to work on improving coordination on local stormwater management entities as in whatever capacity we can support them, the U.S. Air Force Academy and other installations. Facilitate design work on the US 24 and Peterson Boulevard interchange. And work with Schriever Air Force Base to complete a military installation resilience study. And this is primarily, we're going to operate as a pass-through to help out the utilities and Schriever and the Air Force Office of Economic Adjustment and Tri-State Generation work together to evaluate some methods for doing this. So we're mainly the pass-through, and it's going to be a way to facilitate this study. Continuing to support the protection of military installations and mitigate off installation sources of wildfire risk. So that's something that's a task we'll get into. And then, of course, continuing to assist with ongoing planning processes in the local jurisdictions and helping the installation planners and the local community planners connect where needed. And then also we're going to be, throughout the process, crafting some reports or some regular input on demonstrating the benefits of the program to the local community. So with that, the associated grant tasks that we've proposed are these 6 of the Implementation Committee, Air Force Academy, Stormwater Collaboration. A lot of that will be supporting the Air Force Academy and the city's Memorandum of Understanding to work on projects within the Monument Creek Basin. And these other ones I've mentioned already and highlighted. So at this point, Ann Werner and myself, I should note, Ann Werner has been promoted to Senior Military Planner. She will be the interim manager while the search for my replacement is going to be happening. So Ann and myself have been continuing to work remotely as we have since the start of the pandemic. And we believe that as we'll go through today, we should have all of the grant deliverables, all the activities completed by the March 31st deadline for the end of this grant, and then be supporting them during the, submitting them during the period up through April 1st to June 30th, which is our reporting period where we do close out. Some of the, as I noted at the beginning, some of the members of this committee have transitioned out very recently. So some of the folks that have transitioned out, we're going to be going around to the various entities that are represented on this committee and asking for confirmation of current representatives, as well as asking for new representatives to be sent for this committee where there are gaps. So with that, we will have the next meeting on April 22nd, 2021 in anticipation of the next grant. And with that, we will be, of course, making sure we have everyone represented as best as possible and contact everyone to make sure we have a good turnout for that first meeting to kick off the next, what should be the next grant. For those of you who are leaving this committee or have left this committee, we do want to thank you again for all of your participation in the program in the last few years, and hope that you continue to participate. Your participation has been very valuable with that. And I wanted to make sure that, with this being my last committee meeting, I believe all of you are aware of that. I am very grateful to all of you for all of your hard work, and it's been a very fulfilling process. And you guys should all be congratulate yourself on the amount of work that has been accomplished over the last 5 years, and it's been wonderful to watch this process. So thank you very much for all of your time and effort. Wanted to also note, of course, the Defense Mission Task Force and PPACG had partnered again in January a couple weeks ago to talk through the process for the Highway 24 Peterson Road interchange project, do some updates, and discuss the process of adding this project to the long-range transportation plan and the process for amending that plan to add the project. We made some good headway on that, and Keith, feel free to chime in on that if you'd like on anything of that. Otherwise, it was a very good meeting, and we're going to be, that's going to carry on into the next process.
You know, I don't have much else to add, Brian, other than we have appreciated this partnership on that particular project and the many others that we have worked on over these last several years. So thank you for
Thank you,
all
Keith.
of that, and we'll try to carry on. We'll do our best.
I know you guys will. That's the thing that's been great about this process. You realize how much capacity there is in this community and how much support there is for working on these issues as they come up. So, yeah, that's been I'm looking forward to seeing how that project comes to fruition over the next couple of years. So yeah, here's that part. Yes, I will be leaving. My last day as manager is February 12th. And as I already noted, thank you very much for everything that you've done. We do expect that PPSG should hire a military planning manager, probably in line in April, kind of in line with when we expect, around the time we expect the next grant to come through. And so also we've talked about, as noted, with the change in OEA to OCC, the change of the nature of the programs, the movement away from using the joint land use study term as a program, we are going to rebrand this program to the military planning program, just because that opens us up in terms of just recognition for what it is that we're doing related to supporting the military through city planning, and just in preparation for some of the projects that could come up in the future. So just want to note that as well. With that, are there any questions for me at this time? Okay, hearing none, I wanted to move on to the next item, presentations. We talked briefly that El Paso County would be able to give a brief update or some kind of update on the El Paso County Master Plan. And so who would like to talk, or do you need to present anything?
Brian, I do have what was presented to our advisory committee today. I could go through those really quickly.
Certainly. Yeah, I will make you a co-host.
And I'll see if I can butcher this.
Okay, you should have access.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes, yes, we can.
So I'll just walk through quickly. This was a much longer presentation that was given to our Master Plan Advisory Committee. I guess just for the record, those of you who don't know me, my name is Craig Dossie, and I'm the Planning Director for El Paso County. We're in the process of updating our countywide master plan. It's about a 2.5-year process, and we were in the last maybe 3 or 4 months of the process. So we're really close. Currently, staff is in the process of reviewing a draft of 13 of the 14 chapters that are anticipated to be in the plan. The last chapter being a chapter discussing implementation. Of course, that really demands that the other chapters be in a good position to draft that last chapter for implementation. But we are currently reviewing that draft plan. Just kind of briefly going over some of the key plan components. Breaking it down chapter by chapter, you can see number 9, maybe more so for this group than any other group, is a chapter covering the military. You know, we historically have not focused that much, believe it or not, on the presence of the installations in El Paso County in a lot of our long-range planning documents. For whatever reason, that just never happened, and quite frankly, it should have. So we're taking a much more concerted effort with that approach. But you can see that the various chapters, and I'll kind of just whiz through these pretty quickly. I know we're a little short on time. The first chapter is really going to cover what is a master plan. The layperson may not always understand why we do it and what it's supposed to accomplish. It is a policy level document. It's not regulation. It's not zoning or subdivision as most people know them to be. But it does help it helps us make decisions. It also helps inform other planning efforts when it comes to transportation or parks or potentially even the military in terms of what we anticipate for the unincorporated part of the county. So the plan covers some of those key planning considerations. You'll see community engagement, sort of the regional context of El Paso County and the state of Colorado. talking about the multi-jurisdictional aspects of the county and the various incorporated municipalities within the county, of which we have 8. Looking at existing land use. One of the big topics that we're really focusing on here is environmental conservation when in the context of development. And then going through the demographic and market snapshots, because that's really helps with establishing that starting point for long range planning. I'm going to skip the community engagement. I don't think that's necessarily a highlight here. There's a lot of graphics here, so some of this is a little bit slow moving. Very happy with a lot of the graphics that the consultants put together so far. I think it really, people say a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think a lot of times that achieves a lot more than putting yet more words on a page. One of the things that we established right up front with our advisory committee is our vision for the county and what we think the county is now and what it needs to be into the future, and what that means for development, what that means for the environment, for the economy. There's a lot of things that are touched on there. And then our advisory committee established core principles and goals with regard to each of those topical areas. Most people will see in existing master planning documents like a litany of policies and goals. You're not going to see that as much here because we're really taking a different approach to it.
If I may, sorry, Craig, if you note goal 3.5 is one that relates to military. Is that correct? That's what I was noticing in that page, I think.
Actually, there's a second page to this that exclusively focuses on the military. It just wasn't included in the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
So you'll see more of that. So when we look at land use, we're kind of taking a different approach. We're going to start with kind of peeling out areas that either are opportunity areas or areas where we feel like conservation is maybe more important. We're looking at key areas like areas of potential annexation for municipalities. We're looking at key areas such as military installations and what impact should those have on surrounding land use. Areas of conservation like corral bluffs, like paint mines. There are a lot of different types of key areas. Some kind of facilitate growth, and some, obviously would probably suggest that growth should go somewhere else. We then took a look at areas of change, and I'll show you that map real quick. That's really trying to collaborate two things. One, where we feel like infrastructure supports pretty significant change, and then two, where we anticipate municipal annexation to occur. In some ways, those go hand in hand. In some ways, they don't. Really depends upon where you're talking about within the county. And then the last component of it is the place types, and this is looking at areas of the county based upon character. It's not sub areas of the county that are geographically based. There are so many areas of the county that are fairly similar in terms of the character. Whether you're talking about going down 115 and the interaction between national forest and development and the lack of central services, or perhaps up in Black Forest where we have a treed area. It may not be national forest, but these are areas that we want to protect that are forested, where maybe centralized services also aren't available. So instead of trying to break out sub areas geographically, there were enough areas in the county that were similar that we could identify some of these place types. So I mentioned key areas. You can see that we have military installations identified. One of the things that was important to us was to include the 2-mile notification zone around each of those installations. That helps inform the process that our staff will follow in reviewing a development application. We will know that if something happens in one of these notification zones, that we need to send that notice to the installation and give them an opportunity to comment and provide insight as to their preference, or maybe any additional planning that they have that might interact with what's being proposed. Some of the other key areas, you can see we've identified a lot of the enclaves that are actually still in the county that have not been annexed by the city of Colorado Springs predominantly. We've identified areas of annexation, and this, I think in a lot of ways, will marry very well with what the city's doing with their annexation planning. Won't fully encompass all of it, but frankly, our effort was out in front of what the city's working on now. So we're having to adapt to that. I think one of the really neat areas that we've identified as a key area are these smaller towns and rural communities. You know, these are kind of the heart of some of these communities out in the more rural areas of the county. And then identifying several other areas like forested areas and Fountain Creek, watershed flood control, Greenway District. A really neat one is kind of the Pikes Peak influence area. You'll also see the mountain interface area when we talk about place types. It's something very unique, I think, to El Paso County, and I think it's something that, in large part, we've sort of ignored or failed to address in past planning efforts. So these are the key areas, and they're going to help guide some of the decision making and help inform the place types. Another mapping exercise that we went through is identifying areas of change, and we've created sort of the sliding scale of the level of change that we anticipate. For various reasons. Some because of the current parcel configuration really doesn't lend itself to large scale, high density development. You can see pockets of that near Falcon where it's already been subdivided into 2.5 acre lots. But then there are other areas where we see these large acreage parcels. We think that those are really primed to absorb some of the growth that we anticipate, and probably at a little bit higher density in most cases. We've identified Cimarron Hills and some of the other enclaves as transitional areas. The character that they have had up to this point is kind of slowly changing, and that's due to some of the growth pressures, but also the age of the infrastructure and the investment that's needed to redevelop some of those properties. And then you kind of have the in-between areas. Those are kind of the orange and tan, where we don't expect a significant amount of change. You might see Black Forest continue to build out, sort of similar to what you would see up there today, but also recognizing there may be some pockets where some more significant development can occur because of the parcel configuration associated with that. And then lastly, we have our conservation areas, areas where we really don't see much change happening at all for various reasons. And those are really important to identify and will help inform some of the decision making on development as well. So what's interesting about all that is we've identified that approximately 90% of the county, we do not anticipate seeing much change, if any. It really boils down to about 10% of the county from an area standpoint is likely to experience considerable change. So after you look at key areas and you look at areas of change, it's sort of multiple lenses that we're going to be looking at new development through. The last of which is the place types. And as I mentioned, we're taking a place-based approach. It's character-based. It's talking about what makes up these areas and what's unique about these areas. You can see we got a whole list of different place types, ranging from utilities to mountain interface, as I mentioned earlier, rural centers, regional centers, and subdivision or kind of large and small lot subdivisions, and then our more rural areas. This one is an example of one of the place types. This is suburban residential. What I would highlight here is that we've not only identified what we think the character of these areas are, but also what are the primary land uses and what are some of the supporting land uses. This is where we kind of differ from zoning, which might have a whole list of uses. Some people might read this and say suburban residential. Well, that's only going to be residential. Well, that's not always true. You might have open space parks, you might have supporting commercial retail and services, as well as institutional uses. So this is an example. I'm not going to go through all the place types, but this gives you an example of kind of how we're approaching it to say it's not exclusive to a certain type of use. It takes supporting uses to make some of the primary uses function well. This is a 3D model. You're going to see this with each of the place types when the plan does go out for public comment. This is a three-dimensional depiction of what you might expect from this specific place type. I'm not going to go through each of the chapters. I showed those kind of at the outset, but it gives you an idea of the depth of the master planning process for the county. There's all of these various chapters are going to have recommendations that will help feed into the decision-making on growth for the county, but also ongoing functions, ongoing operations of the county, whether it's from the public works standpoint or the park standpoint, you name it. There's a lot of recommendations, and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're bringing in efforts that have already been accomplished, already been performed by other entities like our Economic Development Office, like Chamber of Commerce, like JLUS, and we make reference to the JLUS plan and a lot of the military installations. So, I guess in summary, I'll wrap up with this, but we do anticipate this going to our Planning Commission in May. We've started a new effort called EPC Engage. There's two different tracks. One's more technical and then one's more general public. The general public one, our first effort on that will be in February, and we'll be releasing a video starring Mark Gebhardt and probably myself that will be trying to make sense of the master plan for the general public. Why are we doing it? What does it mean? And more importantly, what does it mean to you as a resident of the county? So that'll be part of the public outreach. We'll be soliciting public feedback in early, or actually probably throughout March. So look for that. And of course, as our partners in the community, we would hope that all of the installations would have the opportunity to review that and provide comments.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Craig? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get us back to the agenda then. Thank you very much, Craig. Appreciate that update, and certainly we encourage everyone here and especially our military partners to continue to follow the progress on that plan. So with that, we are going to get back in order here. All right. So next we're going to move on to the action items. So first up is going to be the U.S. Air Force Academy Working Group and our sub-area report. So Ann Werner, oh, excuse me, I just skipped ahead. So Ann, go ahead whenever you're ready. And I'll flip through things as needed. Ann, looks like you're on mute. Or we can't hear you right now. I can't hear you yet. No, it doesn't sound like we're getting any sound from you. If you want, work on that, and I can start to go through this one. But see if you can figure out. I'm not sure why your sound isn't working. All right, so I'll go ahead and get us started here. So basically, Ann has been the lead on this working group and the preparations and getting a lot of this together. So what we wanted to go through is kind of what our, I apologize, for some reason this keeps sending me to the wrong page. With this working group, we had our last meeting here in January. And we basically went through the kind of the content that we've had over the course of what has now been about 12, 13 months worth of meetings here. And we've met 3 times since the last JLUS Implementation Committee meeting on October 22nd. So some of the things we covered, we spent a lot of time talking about the various transportation issues around the Air Force Academy, including things such as the up and coming at some point, the True North Commons, future travel demand management, and talking through having presentations from many of the entities that do transportation planning in our area. Multiple presentations from PPSG, El Paso County Transportation, Colorado Department of Transportation, City of Colorado Springs gave a presentation on the Reconnect COS transportation planning process that's going on right now. And so talked through a lot of those meetings. The last meeting was on January 15th, and we basically looked at all the different items that we had, kind of the outgrowth of those. We attached the slides from all 3 of those meetings. So those are in your packet. And just as a note, Ann, if you do get your sound working, just speak up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Is there an echo?
Just a little bit of one, yes.
All right, well, I'm going to shut off my Mac and just go with the phone.
Okay, sounds good.
Hang on just a quick second.
Presentations in the days of Zoom. This is just what happens.
Yeah, sorry about that. Macs are great, but I find that I've had trouble with Zoom on it. Everything else seems to work okay on Macs, but not Zoom for me for whatever reason. All right, so I just turned my video on. Hopefully you can see me. So thanks, Brian, for kind of getting us caught up there. You've got the attached agendas from the last 3 meetings of the working group and all the PowerPoints that we produced to go along with that. There's a lot of really good information in there that covers the presentations that were done by CDOT, by staff from our transportation planning team, PPRTA updates from one of the board members there, I believe Dave Geislinger. The county and the city both gave very detailed updates on their transportation planning processes. So we incorporated all of those for your reference. If anyone has any trouble with those, please reach out to either Brian or myself, and we'll make sure you get copies of everything if you didn't for some reason get it in the packet. Or if you need any of the previous PowerPoints and agendas from the working group, we can provide those. So we're looking at transportation, stormwater, and the airport or airfield overlay for the academy going forward. And like Brian mentioned, we will continue to support efforts from the working group outgrowth in the next phase of implementation, along with the other duties that we'll have with Trevor and wildfire and things like that. So we're not going to lose track of that because I think one of the biggest ones for the academy is the airfield overlay. So through the Colorado Springs retool process, we will continue to provide input for that going forward when that is finally finished up and in its final phases. I believe that'll happen later this year. Does anyone have any questions at this point about what we've covered and kind of where we're going with the working group? Okay, that's, like I said, it's really about all I have for this particular action item, which again is really more discussion. So I'll just leave it at that for now. Thank you.
If I may, I'll go ahead and add the other part, which you received an email. Would you like to tell them about the report?
Yeah, sure. So we have got a rough draft that went out. I sent it out last evening of the working group report. And it contains, there were 3 attachments in that email. And I believe I sent it to all the working group members for everyone that's really ever been on a working group, on the working group. And so quite a few of you should have received it. I copied everyone from the implementation committee so that you'd all have it. And it's not a super long document. It will be once we add in all the attachments and appendices, but I think we're at what, 23 or 24 pages of text.
Yeah.
We do have, I think we added 3 or 4 maps in there as a reference. So go ahead and take a look at that and provide us comments if you can within the next week and a half or so. And if you can't get it to us by February 5th, that's okay. We will still continue to take comments until we finish the document for submittal to Lewis Littleton, which will happen. We'll want to finish it up by the end of March at the latest. So if you can get us comments no later than kind of the end of February, that would be great. But we're shooting for February 5th, mostly so I can have Brian's help getting this all put together. So you'll see as one of the other attachments, an action status spreadsheet for everything we have for the academy. It's all based off the joint, off of the JLUS study and what we've been working on in implementation. So that's a spreadsheet attached, and we updated that with kind of a status update. Please add to that any additional efforts that you guys have been working on outside of the working group or outside of the implementation committee, so that we have an up-to-date kind of track on where we're at. And then the other attachment, the last attachment, was just a really simple spreadsheet form for you to provide comments for either the draft sub-area document or for the action spreadsheet. So that's what we're looking at there. Any questions on that?
And I'll just tack on to that we did send the Word document along in case you prefer to do track changes and send us a version of that. So we tried to work with everyone's different editing styles. And so whichever way you want to get us comments back to us is fine with us. And so the steps that we have here in the memo here for item 7A and dates, those are all suggested, but as Ann mentioned, we're going to work with everyone. If you have some other things you want to dig into, we're open to that. So,
Yep.
So thank you. Anything else to add on this item, Ann?
No, thanks, Brian.
Okay. So the rest of this, we included some of the actions that were included thus far. And so we really appreciate everyone's participation in that. And so we have sent it, of course, to the working group and this committee so that everyone concurrently with both groups can review it at the same time. We thought that would probably be the most efficient in terms of doing comments at the same, getting all the comments together at the same time. So with that, I'm going to move on here to item 7B. There we are. Sorry about the quick flurry there of activity. So I believe this is 7B, yes. So our second effort with this in terms of sub-area reports, and again, this is a way for us to kind of document various activities that happen around certain airfields where there's a lot going on regarding to flight and compatible land use analysis. And the original intent was that with both of these plans, we would actually do some parcel analysis, but we lucked out in that with, as mentioned before at the Air Force Academy, the Air Force Academy ended up performing an air installation compatible use zone study, which was not anticipated when originally wrote the grant. So that was very helpful in terms of that study. With the Peterson Air Force Base sub-area plan mapping task, we were expecting to do the same thing. And we happened to be 2 for 2 on lucking out. The Colorado Springs Airport had announced, and I've mentioned this before, they've had a few presentations on this, that they were going to be doing some parcel analysis, compatible use analysis as part of their airport master plan update. With this ended up fulfilling a lot of the tasks that we had anticipated for task 4. And therefore we thought, okay, what are the other issues aside from parcel analysis, some of the other things that have been going on around Peterson, how we can encapsulate those and document what actions have been completed from the JLUS study. So we're currently in the process of writing that. We wanted to get the Air Force Academy one completed first, as there was a lot more material for that. But in this one, you're going to see, we're going to be sending this out by email with the same kind of format of asking for comments. And so we're going to do all of that virtually just through email correspondence, phone calls, and Zoom meetings one-on-one or with a group as needed if we need to get that one wrapped up. This will be, we expect this to be a shorter document. Mostly it's going to cover land use with regards to what has been going on with El Paso County as was presented by Craig and how that relates to Peterson Air Force Base, retool COS, and some of the Colorado Springs Airport's recommendations for zoning code changes to protect flight at Peterson Airfield and the airport. So we'll encapsulate some of the things that have come out of those processes. Also, we'll try and summarize what is the draft, what portions of the airport land use compatibility study that's going to end up being chapter 5 of the airport master plan. We're going to try and summarize what was publicly available for that. The reason why we're doing that is that the draft version of that is not yet publicly available. The public comment period for that is expected to occur for just that portion in the fall. And then there's also going to be a full airport master plan update that we expect to happen later in the year, if not early 2022. So more to come on that. But in the meantime, we're going to summarize as much as we can. We'll also comment on what we know so far, CDOT's MAMSIP program, that involves some improvements on Highway 24, Highway 24, Highway 84. Am I saying that right? Been dealing with this for a long time and now I'm forgetting the freeway.
Highway 94.
Thank you, 94. So
Charter
Highway
Oak Branch
94.
Road.
Yes. Yeah, so we'll include some things that relate to Peterson there, and also, of course, summarize all the work that I mentioned earlier with Keith Klain and the Defense Missile Task Force and the Peterson Boulevard interchange, and just document the steps that have been taken and what the expected next steps are. And again, we'll send that around so everyone can comment to make sure we've documented things correctly, and as well as a few other topics that relate to the recommended JLUS actions. So we expect that should be released and sent out by email Friday of next week is what we're anticipating. And then we'll again do a recommended 10-day review period where we hope to have comments back by Monday, February 15th. But again, if you still have comments after that, do send them to us. And Anne will have help. Our consultant, HB&A Architects, will be continuing to help with finalizing this draft. So are there any questions on that at this point? All right. We look forward to your comments on both of these plans both of these reports, and make sure we're documenting progress in our area as it relates to both Air Force Academy and Peterson. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Anne for agenda item 7C, draft real estate information language.
Yes, this item we've covered in at least the last two meetings that we've had with the implementation committee. So not a lot of detail has changed regarding the real estate language. I did receive standard language that HB&A, or not HB&A, but HBA uses. So that's included with your packet. And along with, you'll see additional language examples that we've put in there for your reference. So really what we're needing to do, this is a grant task item that we were, as part of this phase 1 implementation, to come up with sort of standard real estate language that the military, the builders, the city government and county government entities are good to work with as an example. And we will include, the best we can, incorporate your comments on real estate language in the sub-area plan for the academy. So at this point, we're just looking for additional comments on this language so that we can incorporate it into that report that we have. I don't really have a whole lot else on this. Brian, is there anything you'd like to cover in addition?
I guess what we'd recommend is that, we recommend that that all of you take a look at this and some of the other examples that we attach to this memo, and email to Anne directly any comments, ideas, so we can continue to refine this, making sure that we're kind of coming up with something. And again, this is not something that necessarily would be final, as in no one could edit this again. We're just trying to get to a starting point of some kind of standardized language that could be used by a variety of partners to inform buyers, inform people during the real estate process about the nature of that there are military installations in the area, and they do perform certain operations. So we appreciate anything else that you can get to Anne and continue to work through this. And it's possible that during the remainder of the time of this grant, that if needed, we can always set up perhaps a Zoom conversation to focus in on this item with some of the folks that are most familiar or have been using things, to really hammer out what are the things we do want to get out of this language, what are the things that we need to avoid, and just continue to refine this. So the idea is we're just trying to move the ball the next 5 years down the line with this. And then we've created some kind of model language that could be used in the area for those that could use it. So that's all I'll say with that. Any questions or comments at this point? Got a fairly quiet crowd tonight, I guess.
Brian, I would only comment that a bit of a mea culpa on my part is I was to provide the format that is most commonly used for real estate disclosures here.
Okay.
It's a multi-page, single multi-page form. Anything other than that would have to be a separately approved form. This is an uphill battle.
Yes.
For the real estate industry. They are loath to put standard language in there that may scare people away, right? Really, I know the
Yes.
intent is simply for folks to do their due diligence and make sure they're comfortable with whatever is surrounding the property they're contemplating. But it's a little more complicated than that. And it may be a bit of an uphill struggle, but other communities have fought their way through it and gotten there, other states, mind you. And it'll be a process, and hopefully we'll get there. But I will remain committed to send that over. And
Okay.
now that I'm thinking of it, may be able to do that pretty quickly. But that's on me for not having sent it by now.
That's all right, Keith. There's a lot going on, so we'll again, this is a good time for us just to get whatever we can again and ask for assistance with this. And to remind you that at this point, this wasn't going to be an attempt to actually get this formally included into a DORA process, Department of Regulatory Affairs, or anything like that. It was simply to try and work and see if there was some kind of language that could be developed. So again, this will be an ongoing process, but we're hoping we can get to some kind of next step. So anything you can send to us, what you send to us, Keith, we'll make sure to take all that together and see what we can do. So thank you very much for your help with this, and we appreciate any comments you're going to have via email or calling us up. So thank you very much. And then you'll see here that we included those resources, some of the things that we've cobbled together from various places. Virginia, a link to the one used in Arizona for particularly with Luke Air Force Base, a general airport disclosure notice from California, and then some sample language that we got from Colorado Springs Housing and Building Association, which we really appreciate their help with trying to figure this out. So. And then there's a fairly substantial document here that we included last packet that we thought was important to add again, that's from the city of Aurora, that is multiple pages and discuss everything from their airport influence zones. Buckley is here on starting on page 61 of your packet. And then they go into part 77, process for variances and terms. So there's a lot of good information in here. So we thought it was important to include this again. So we appreciate anything that you're going to have going forward. Bear with me as I get to our next item, which is going to be 7D. Okay, so this is our last agenda item that we have for today. And this is probably, I saved the most exciting thing for last, in my opinion. I hopefully you guys are never been so excited about a map before, but I am a planning nerd. So for a while, we've had our GIS folks, as we're able to get information, do a little bit of an experiment for task 3, which was, can we create a regional sort of energy siting map as it relates to military flight and flight in our area? And so we used as much as possible already publicly available data resources in order to create this. And I've been told the link that I have in here may not be the most up to date, but I do have this up. And so I'll show this to you in a moment. But we tried to get some wind data, wind development potential data sets from National Renewable Energy Labs. At this point, the data that we had was not, it didn't work well in this map. So we'll continue to work on that and see if we can get it. It did not display very well. It was kind of fuzzy, but we did get a lot of good information. So I've included the data sets here, and I'm going to send out the link to this. But this is what our GIS department has come up with. So what we did is that we had, we took the FAA flight routes, the special use airspace areas, the visual flight routes, training corridors, all of the things that are publicly available through FAA. We also got some data from the Air Force Academy, and we really appreciate that to show the Air Force Academy training areas here that are out east of Colorado Springs. And we also mapped there's this great data layer that we were able to get through National Renewable Energy Labs that shows the exact positions of current wind towers as they sit in wind farm development so that you can actually navigate that. Now, we were just trying to go for the region, but naturally these data sets extend further out. And so we do end up having mapping. We did end up having data that extends quite a ways out should you be interested. What we hope is that this will just provide an additional resource to help folks understand kind of where airspace, air traffic, and where wind turbines are, and can serve as an additional tool for evaluation in our area. So this is, again, just a first attempt. We will make sure to send this link out so everyone has it, can look through it. And we look forward to getting any comments you have on this and letting us know if you see some things that, ideas for improvement, things that might need to be corrected. If you hover over some of these, it'll have some information here, including a lot of this is straight from the FAA. So anyway, please take a look and let us know what you think, and we'll get this link out to you. With that, are there any questions or observations about this map as it stands right now? Anything you want me to pan to so you can look at? All
Brian,
right.
are you showing us the map right now?
Yes. Are you able to see it?
No, I see the PDF.
Okay. Forgive me. Forgive me. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. Are you able to see this now?
Now we got it. Yep.
Okay. I apologize. I didn't realize that I was showing you just the, you're probably like, what are you looking at? Yeah. So this is, this is the map. So you can see the training areas there east of Colorado Springs. These orange dots here are the wind turbine locations. And so you can see when you zoom in close, you can see exactly what is in certain areas. And so we have the military installation outlines here with Air Force Academy and Peterson and so on. And we also included the restricted airspaces that are, so a lot of this was FAA data, existing data sets we had related to the boundaries of the Air Force, to the various installations, and then pulling in the renewable, the wind farm locations. And so again, we encourage you to look through this and let us know your opinions, your comments, and anything else that that we may need. And so Joe, did we get all the information we needed from Peterson Air Force Base? I think we did at this point, but please take a look at this, and anyone from Peterson, if you see anything that we may have missed that we need to add, or if the military installations note anything else that we may have missed with regards to airspace, training areas and so on, please let us know if it's something that can be made publicly available. So
Brian, could you pan just a little further to the south?
Sure. And I can zoom in too if you'd like.
No, okay. All right.
The Pueblo there right in the middle. And
Well, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we had the corridor that Fort Carson got approved for unmanned aerial vehicles from Fort Carson down to Pinyon Canyon on there.
Yeah, I don't know if that's included here. I see this kind of flight route here with the visual flight route, but I don't know if that's exactly it or not. So VR 411, and that may be something else. But we'll reach out to Fort Carson.
I think we have a Fort Carson representative on, I think. We'll have to get that looked at by their G3 Air folks probably. I think it would be, it's probably worthy of one solid route painted from Fort Carson to Pinyon Canyon in the end. But yeah, we'll have to look a little further at that.
Okay. And to Amy Kelly's question, is there metadata about the floor and ceiling altitudes of the training routes and Moas? I'll check back with our GIS folks to see if that data was included with these layers. I don't know if it is, but just clicking on this, let's see, we have some description. Yes, there is upper and lower altitude here, for example, for this MOA. So we have showing upper altitude 1800 AMSL and lower altitude 13,000 AMSL. So Is that what you were thinking, Amy?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, great. Yeah, so
I
it
mean,
looks like with-
Mark's our real expert, but I just think that's critical to know. You know, just the floor, well, more of the floor of each of the
Yes.
Moas and routes, whether or not it's going to be an issue with potential wind turbines or other developments.
Absolutely. Yeah, so and I think if I'm not seeing it at this point, I'm not seeing it for the one for the Air Force Academy training areas, but if there is some other data that is not included as you're going through, everyone feel free to check these areas and check and just let us know if there's other data that we're missing, and then we can start to work out what we can add in here. But
Brian, would you pan over that A639A just northeast of Pueblo? Is that the training area for the cadets down out of Pueblo?
this is showing up as U.S. Air Force Academy training area. Yeah, and then yeah, so this one appears to be Air Force Academy related.
Oh yeah.
And then
Amy Kelly, do you know if the folks training your guys out of Pueblo use the same airspace, the same air training areas that your guys do from the academy proper?
I think there are some different ones, but I need to completely defer to Mark Stoffel on that question.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Pueblo has their own set of training areas. And I can take a closer look at this and see if they're depicted. And if not, I'll see what I can do to try to furnish that to y'all.
Thank you, Mark.
okay,
I think
Well, great.
I think the folks out of Peterson, the MAPS guys, have some of their own training areas as well. Do you know one way or the other, Jennifer, Jen, whether that's the case? Jennifer Fitch, I think she's on anyway.
yeah. Do we have someone from Peterson on here? If anyone from Peterson has any comments?
This is Jeff Robertson. I'm on.
Okay,
Oh, hi, Jeff.
If you pulled FAA data, then it would be on this map.
okay. I'm guessing it might be. Is it potentially part of this Cougar High MOA potentially?
I'd have to defer to the 302nd
Okay,
because Peterson doesn't fly aircraft, 302nd does,
okay,
other than the Aeroclub.
Right.
And I know they do have some low altitude routes that they use for their training sorties.
They do, and they include some routes onto and off of Fort Carson and Pinyon Canyon as well. So,
okay.
can we get somebody from the 302nd to take a look at this, Jeff?
We can, but again, it would be published FAA. Just like Cheyenne Mountain has a helipad that's FAA certified and the flight restrictions are documented. So it depends on how current your data import was to build this map. FAA is also tracking restricted flight or fly areas for drones. And I don't know if this map includes the drone information either.
Right. Yep.
That is possible. Okay, yeah. So if there's anything on here like that, I would say take a look at this and take your time with it, and certainly email us anything that you think may be missing, and we can do our best to try and get that data. And so any input you have on this, definitely take a look, and I'll make sure to get this link sent out so everyone can view this map and get us comments. But we thought, okay, this is a good start. We've got a lot of the data that was available. Now we'll see what we can do to add anything else that might be missing. So,
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
This is Amy Kelly from the Air Force Academy. Can you just refresh who might be using this map and how they might be using it, like what the vision was for actually promulgating this map and who might be the
Sure.
target audience?
Sure. The primary purpose behind creating this map was that as we have development occurring in the area, sometimes, especially when it comes to wind development, it might be helpful for those that are considering development in these areas to understand where training operations are happening, where there might be overflight, and in particular, say with the training areas for the Air Force Academy, doing our best to raise awareness about where those are in relationship to where wind turbines might be in our local area. So we thought this could be a tool for planners, for installation planners, for city planners, for developers, for anyone who needed to kind of have an understanding of the different training areas. The idea was that this map could be used as a tool for that. So it was that was the intent behind this experiment. And so also we do welcome feedback as to if it looks like this map is not quite ready to be fully publicly facing, if there's some other things that need to be added, if there's some other cautions or other statements that need to go with this, or if it should be something that needs to be logged into and maybe only limited access instead of general public, we certainly welcome those comments as well. So we'd like to know, we want to get any thoughts you have on this and the functionality, and if there's anything we can do to try and make this better.
One of the thoughts that comes to my mind, and Mark again can probably speak more eloquently than I on this, but there's through the Colorado Department of Transportation, there's a mid-air collision avoidance map that has a lot of the same information. And I think the 2016 one is still up on the website, but soon the revised 2021 will be up. So I'd want to QC it against that just to make sure that, agencies aren't showing different areas by chance. I mean, even though all this has been pulled down from the FAA, I know a lot of care went into making that MACA, mid-air collision avoidance map. So we'd probably want to QC it against that.
Good idea. Okay, we'll do that.
Who should I send the MACA poster to?
Go ahead and send it to both myself and Ann. So you should be able to send it to both of us, and that way we can start taking a look.
Okay, thank you. And I might have to send it through a app called DoD Safe because it's a pretty big file.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Hey, Brian,
yeah.
I think I'd just like to add one word of caution for Peterson and Cheyenne Mountain. And we'd prefer to use the FAA as the authoritative data source.
Yes.
So I think we need to be very careful presenting this that because Peterson, we're not going to do anything to keep this current necessarily and make sure it's completely reflective. We focus on the FAA information to make sure that that's current and reflected appropriately. And when we get requests from developers and pilots and things like that, we always refer them to the current FAA site to get their information.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, we may want to, if we are going to have this be public facing, then we'll have to caution that this is, we'll make sure it's understood what is the most current data sets and help people to understand what is the intent of this tool. But we certainly don't want to create any confusion in confusing it with what are the most latest FAA data sets or the mid-air collision or anything else. So we'll have to definitely take that into consideration.
Brian, just as kind of a test of that, I guess a question for Mark and or Amy would be, are there not FAA approved routes to and from your training areas out to the east, out to Bullseye and some of these other training areas?
The routes we used are just local suggested routes, and it varies based on weather. The normal route the guys might take might be obscured by clouds or other stuff going on, or even traffic at the springs. And they're basically vectored there, or they're given VFR direct. So there's too many variables to say that this would be the absolute path to them.
Okay, so there are no formal routes to an FAA approved routes to and from.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, well, I really appreciate, again, any comments you can send to us would be helpful. Absolutely anything about this map. So we'll send this link out. Feel free to share this with those within the installation flight units. We can get it to whoever you need to. But certainly this is not intended to be fully publicly, fully public knowledge yet or publicly facing, but we created this so that all of you could get a chance to look at this and let us know if you think this tool is useful and what we could do to make it more useful and anything else that we need to be aware of. So we really appreciate your input on this. So thank you very much for that. So with that, I think that is the end of our items. And so now I'd like to do, if that's okay, is move this on to information items. Are there any installation reports from either from any of the installations that we have here today?
I'll go real quick. I just want to thank you and Anne and your consultants for all your work. It's been just absolutely amazing since I've come on board at the Academy, how much we've accomplished through the JLUS process and the working group process. And I know I spoke when we had our last working group meeting, but I do really appreciate all the information sharing, all the creative thinking. And I think we've pushed some of the topics a lot further this year than I ever thought possible. So there's still more work to do. You know, our priorities in terms of an airfield zoning overlay and continuing the stormwater work and transportation. But I just am so pleased with all that the group has accomplished and how collaborative it's been. The other thing I wanted to mention to everyone is that we do have at the Air Force Academy the National Character and Leadership Symposium coming up on February 25th and 26th. It's a Thursday, Friday. It's a fabulous event. It is open to the public. It will be all virtual this year. I don't have a link that I can easily tell, but I can put one in the chat. But if you basically just Google National Character and Leadership Symposium, you will find the registration link for the public. We have amazing speakers every year, great speakers, but certainly some high profile ones this year as well. General Stanley McChrystal, we have Marcus Luttrell from the Lone Survivor book, the Michael Murphy Medal of Honor. We have Colonel Matthews and Lieutenant Colonel Van Ardsdale from the Battle of Mogadishu. So really some really interesting speakers and some very high profile speakers this year. So just encourage everyone to attend. It's a great opportunity. And I'll find the link right now and stick it in the chat.
Thank you, Amy. And thanks for all your compliments. It's been great working with everybody. So especially Air Force Academy on that sub-air working group. So thank you. Any other installation reports? Anything from Peterson or Fort Carson? All right, hearing none, go ahead with community reports. Any community members or anyone else that would like to talk about any land use development, military related items that you have?
Craig Dossie. I don't have anything else to add. I just want to thank you for all of your time working with the county. Really enjoyed getting to know you, and I think you've really advanced not just this process, but honestly the relationship between the county and PPACG. So just want to wish you the best of luck, and when the master plan's done, I'll send you a giant copy of the 200-page document.
That sounds great. I will enjoy seeing how it turned out. Thank you, Craig. It's been great working with the county too, and we think it's fantastic, that process and how it's incorporated a lot of the JLUS recommendations that came out of the last process. I think everything here, all this stuff has been very successful, and all the work that you guys have done to trying to incorporate these things. So thank you.
And Brian. Hey, Brian, just so you know, when you leave, we now have somebody to blame it all on. Exactly. I become the scapegoat. So there's someone else online that had a comment.
Brian, this is John Sanders. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry. My mic has not worked this whole session. So yes, we do have airspace to Pinion. I believe it's high altitude, but aside from that, I can comment to you after the meeting on some stuff. Sad to see you go. I just heard about it just now, basically. So disappointed that you're leaving, but I'm sure you've got good reasons. And also, we have a new director in DPW. Hal Allegayer retired this past month. And Joe Wyka, our head of engineering, has returned to take that position. So that's just a bit of news for your group.
Thank you very much, John. Yeah, it's been great working with Fort Carson too, so really appreciate it. Any other installation, any other community member reports, or for that matter, anything else from the installations? All right, with that, I've copied the
Hey,
link.
sorry,
Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Louis, go ahead.
Sorry for the delay in getting to the mute button. I just wanted to ask John if he could give that name one more time for the new DPW.
His name is Joseph Wyka. Did you get that?
And Louis,
I can type it in the chat.
and also Louis, I actually do have his contact information. I think I got that from John Sanders, so I can send that along to you, Louis.
That would be wonderful. Appreciate that.
Okay, I will do that.
Thanks.
Hey, anyone else have any other information, any other community reports? All right. With that, the next anticipated meeting dates, that would be the next quarterly dates anticipated to occur. And of course, whether the grant approval comes through or not, I think PPCG will certainly work on continuing to keep this going, but we do anticipate another grant coming through. So the next dates would be April 22nd, July 22nd, October 28th. And I hope that even though I won't be here necessarily for those, at least as I know of at this point, we hope that at some point later this year, one of those would start to be in person. So in any case, thank you very much for attending today. And thank you very much for all the work. This implementation process has been very enjoyable. So thank you all very much, and feel free to reach out to Ann or myself if you need anything, and certainly get us our comments. And we'll, on all these items, we'll get those to you. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
And have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Brian, for all you've done.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
job.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.